the proposed project is Breathe Better Today, Keep the Doctor Away. We already know about the Big Draw. So the Big Draw is the international charity that promotes visual education, and we are actually propagating a message to the community to make the change. So here we are actually, as being a yoga teacher, I'm actually promoting what I call as a pranayama, or a breathing technique that actually helps improve your own health, and over time it's obviously going to keep the doctor away. All right, taking the message to the community by involving friends and family. That is the main goal of this project. All right, so today we are going to actually talk about the second study, which is something called as a Bhastrika, or bellows breath. So what it does, the practice of Bhastrika pranayama, what it actually does is, like, the capacity of the lung. Today, that is what we're going to talk about. So I'm going to move on with the next slide, because that will make more sense as we go along, because this is what we're going to understand. What does it do? So we are talking about lung capacity, right? At any point of time, what is the volume of air that can be like held in our lungs? That is called the lung capacity, right? How do we measure it? So there are various names and values, as you can see. It's fairly simple to understand. So inspirational, let's start with inspirately reserve volume. Inspirately reserve volume. If you actually see, it is actually marked by the green part of things, which means there is a space which actually lets you to inhale more. That's it. So that is the capacity. So we have 2.5 liters of space in our lungs, which is 90% of the time, again, not used, right? And the next one is called, the blue part of it is called the tidal volume. The tidal volume is the one which actually keeps coming in and going out, coming in and going out, and that's it. See, if you see the amount of volume of the air that is coming in and out, it is 0.5 liters. 0.5 liters. All right. And similarly, expiratory is reserve volume. So if you want to exhale completely, that's how much you can flush the air out, which is another 1.5 liters. And residual volume. Residual volume is nothing but the amount of air or oxygen, not necessarily oxygen, let's just say it as air, because again, what is the purpose of our lungs? The purpose of our lungs is to actually give the good, take in the good oxygen and then leave out the, filter out the carbon dioxide, and obviously that is done through the bloodstream. So let's not go into the working of the lungs, but we are talking about the capacity of the lungs at this point in time. So so by this diagram, what we are trying to understand here is, see, 1.5 liters is the default lung, at any point of time, 1.5 plus 1.5, it's about 3 liters of air is inside the lungs at any given point in time, whether it be oxygen / carbon dioxide. We're not going to talk about that. We are just going to talk about the amount of air that is inside our lungs. But what is its capacity? The capacity is twice as much, right? But we don't use. So we don't use, in fact, 50% of our lungs, we don't actually use on an everyday basis. So what does this do? So let's talk a little bit more about why are we actually even talking about lung capacity? So we know that, right, like to breathe in a complete inhalation and a complete exhalation, right? It takes so many different things together to just do that, right? So one, it takes the elasticity of the muscles on your chest, because if your chest muscles are tight, you cannot breathe fully, because it needs to be flexible enough to let the lung inside kind of balloon up and absorb, right? That is one, elasticity of the muscles. Two, if let's say these are the conditions, lung is something that is actually very often affected, right? Like it starts from the allergies. It could be kind of like, it's a deeper dwelling, which is like asthma and things like that, or any other lung-based diseases, or any of these. And the best example is again COVID. COVID, the first thing it does is to actually infect the lungs, correct? So things like these is going to actually reduce the capability of the lungs by itself to move. Think of if your lung is actually infected. This is the problem that we are currently facing every day, right? So in COVID, a lung is actually infected and it can't actually pump at its maximum capacity. And so the depth of the inhalation is totally reduced. And that is what they call as the measuring capacity, the maximum voluntary volume. Like it is the fourth point here. The maximum volume of air that automatically goes in and out should be improved. This doesn't mean that we are actually improving our lungs, but we are improving the capacity of the lungs to operate better. So it's more like, think of like the mechanical thing versus the efficiency, right? So there are two ways to do it. You can actually improve the efficiency, which is not possible. How can you improve the efficiency of the lung? No, you cannot, especially when there is an infection or anything that is affecting the lungs. It could be again, what if your nose is blocked? You cannot improve the capacity of the lungs. You cannot actually say, okay, inhale deeply when your noses are blocked, correct? Similarly, so there can be a bunch of things that could affect the inhalation part of it or the other part of the respiratory. But by regularly practicing some of these exercises like Vastrika Pranayama could improve a lot of different things. What it does is it actually strengthens your lungs up to a certain point. And what does that mean by strengthening the lungs? It's the same thing that we actually spoke about. If there is a better blood flow to your lungs, the fighting capabilities of infections, you're either fighting your infections or you're actually pretty much destroying your infections, whatever, that fighting capability and the immunity is improved with better airflow. What does that mean by better airflow? Better oxygen absorption of the muscles. So the muscles go stronger, the lungs get stronger, the lungs get better fighting capabilities. Obviously our blood has the fighting capability towards the infections, etc., things like that. So these are some of the 4 points that is always measured to identify the lung capacity. How can we improve the lung capacity of a person? So these are the 4 points which is always measured. So I think you have all seen, like, the kind of the one like in the picture, there is a measurement, there is an object that is actually given to every patient when they undergo a surgery, if you know that. So all they have to do is they have to actually hold the blower into their mouth and blow with the full capacity. There might be 2 or 3 balls out there which might actually go and hit the top. It's kind of like, have you seen that, like, big hammer thingy which actually goes and all the way rings the bell? Something similar to that. But at the same time, there'll be like 2 or 3 balls which actually measures all of these important measurements. What it basically means is forced vital capacity. When you inhale forcefully, in this particular case, your nose is blocked, you're not breathing in through your nose. Now you're actually forcing the air out. So you're actually pushing everything from the lung out. That is the forced vital capacity. So at some point in time, even if you are unable to breathe, best example, underwater. What happens when you're underwater? You breathe out so that you don't drown, correct? Otherwise, the water goes inside the lungs. You keep pushing it out. That is the first thing you learn when you actually start to swim. So this is the forced vital capacity. How forceful exhalation can improve the lung capacity. That is one of the first options. Second one, forced expiratory volume in 1 second. See, these are just measuring kind of like, you can say it as the speed of the expiration. That's what I would actually explain. So the forced expiration in 1 second, right? So that is the rate in which the expiration is happening. If the expiration is happening slowly, but then can it be like that? Can you actually forcefully exhale slowly? You cannot do that. Think about it. You cannot actually exhale forcefully, and that action, whatever the exhalation, cannot happen slowly, right? Especially when it's a forceful exhalation. When you're inhaling normally and exhaling normally, you can definitely push out and elongate the exhale. That is what we are talking about. So what happens when it has to be done forcefully, especially when you're taking a run? When you're going for a run, you need to be able to forcefully exhale to actually inhale more. And what happens when you're going up the hill? Same context. As you go up the hill, the air gets thickened, you cannot breathe comfortably, and so you take a deep breath, right? You exhale deeply and the inhale happens automatically. That's usually how it works. So it's a beautiful, our body is a beautiful mechanism. The lung and the diaphragm and all of those things work amazingly well to keep us actually very good in keeping our lung capacity at the fullest. But then we don't recognize how much it does the work. So let's move on to the next. All right. So what does Vastrika do? Let's jump to the point here. So we already, I think I already touched on all the different factors. So based on this particular study, they experimented with 2 teams. So one team is actually, one group is actually practicing yoga every day, especially these breathing practices, etc., and also some physical practices, etc., on one side. And on the other side, people are running every day. So 1 hour of running versus 15 minutes of Bastrika every day. This is the comparison between comparison done in this particular study that we are talking about. And what is actually found is the yoga, the people who actually practiced all of these breathing techniques have all the numbers. Remember the measuring things we actually spoke about? All of these measurements were high on the yoga group than the running group. See, think of like all the aerobic exercises, as we say, etc., right? It does improve our, so even for running people who actually either run a marathon or anything of that sort, the yogic team seem to have had better experience in kind of using up the capacity or improving the capacity of their lungs. So this is the study. And so, sorry. All right. So what does it do? It recruits normally unventilated lung spaces. We already said, like, we are not even using 50%. We are using 50% of our lung, but we don't use it to the fullest capacity at any point in time. And 2, it helps to strengthen the respiratory muscles. As I said, like, your chest muscles need to be flexible to let your lung muscles to be stronger. And so it goes vice versa. So if your lung is stronger and your chest is tight, you still can't breathe properly. So it should be the flexibility on both ends. And that is what this assures. And it increases the elastic properties of the lungs and chest, which automatically makes more sense. If the muscles are actually more flexible and you're able to kind of inflate it like a balloon to the fullest of its capacity, which is like about 6 liters of capacity, it naturally improves the ventilatory function. And just another tidbit here is, like, I have been actually teaching a lot of these practices for for the blind center of Santa Clara. So for them, people actually come with a lot of other issues, right? Whether it be not able to actually take a deep breath, or shortness of breath is normal for them, etc. And the oxygen saturation, etc. Which again, for in terms of COVID and other symptoms, other problems that we are actually facing today, the oxygen saturation seems to be very, very important. And I have proof that the person who actually practiced Bastrika every day, about in the 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes in the evening, has had who usually has like 92% or 93% of O2 saturation, has actually improved it up to 99% with continuous effort, obviously, right? Like when you work on it continuously, your body learns to be better, learns to work better, and oxygenates better. Everything is better when you do it regularly. So, all right, can we just do it? It's a very simple practice, but again, I'm going to give some cautionaries. If you have a blocked nose, please don't do this. If you have hypertension, which is like high blood pressure or anything of that sort, again, mild or controlled, you are taking medication for your blood pressure, absolutely fine. Otherwise, you can definitely do this. Do it slowly first, and then we'll increase the speed. There are two ways of doing it. The faster we go, you'll be able to kind of like imitate doing kind of like a high intensity workout. So let's try to do slowly first. Hands on either side, your elbows are bent. Relax your shoulders. Your shoulders are going to go up and down without any tightness. So you can actually loosen them up if you want. And you can do shrug and release, shrug, release, shrug and release. So there should be no tension in them. You're not holding them. You're just letting it go. All right, hands on either side. And always, breathing better is only through the nose, never through the mouth. So zip your mouth. And now breathing only through our nose. Forceful inhalation and forceful exhalation. You can watch me for a quick second. See, so when I go up, my hands are open up, like my fingers are open, and I'm stretching all the way. So here I'm expanding my chest. If you can see it, I'm not doing that. You see what I'm saying? I'm expanding. I'm opening up my chest. Close your eyes. Let's gently stop the practice. You will feel your heart rate is slightly higher. You're pumping more blood. And you can also feel a lightheadedness in your head. Kind of like blood will be pumping into your forehead. Again, we already covered this in the previous session. So whenever you breathe really well, the oxygenation to the brain, when does it happen? It doesn't happen very often, does it? Because you're always in the upright position. Gravity is this way. It doesn't go to the brain. So normal blood pumping into the arteries and veins will happen, but it is not enough, right? That's why you're tired. What happens when you work 8 hours or 12 hours straight? You're tired. There is no blood pumping into your forehead. What do? Sleep. When you lie down, you kind of let more. So yoga gives you methods where you don't have to do all that. You can still keep up your energy, keep up the blood flow to your brain, right? Without like expecting 1 hour of sleep or 20 minutes of sleep or whatever it is. That doesn't mean it says it doesn't sleep, don't sleep, but more effective ways. So you are a living body. It has its own mechanism. You're understanding the mechanism of your own body. You're understanding what your body does and use it to the fullest capacity instead of kind of let it decay. Because what happens over time? As we age, the body decays. It's a natural way of things, right? We eventually die. That's all fine. But what happens? What is the quality of our life while we live is the importance of all of these practices. All right, let's do it. Now we're going to do continuously for about 25 counts. So 1 up and down is 1. All right. This is going to be stressful. So take your time. If you feel tired, gently stop the practice, close your eyes, and just observe what all happens in your body. That's what you're going to observe. Let's start. You will feel the blood pumping into your shoulders, definitely into your forehead. The heart is beating. You know, the moment there is no inhale or exhale, observe that just for a moment. You have enough oxygenation. Your lung is filled to its fullest capacity. It pauses for a moment before you breathe again. Just observe your breath for a moment. Observe the ease in your inhale and the exhale. It'll feel like something kind of like opened up extra space in your lungs. Now take a deep breath. Exhale completely. And gently open your eyes. Sometimes people feel much refreshed because of all the blood flow. Sometimes if people have like certain amount of stress in their head or in their body or anything of that sort, people might feel tired. Again, it's not a bad thing, but regular practice is required to change it for the better. Just going over the practices, what Bhastrika does, right? Again, yogic breathing makes lungs more efficient, right? We are efficiently understanding ways to improve the capacity of your lungs. Again, obviously, it improves the oxygen intake because you're not losing the lung to your fullest. This helps you use your lungs to the fullest. And obviously, every day, if you practice this, you will be able to improve the healthy living. Basically meaning, again, your lungs are doing very good. There is no breathing difficulties whatsoever. So how is your health? When good oxygenation and the deoxygenation, the flushing of the toxins happens, which is happening at your lungs, then you inherently have a better healthy life. All right, so these are the main 3 points for Bhastrika. And again, adhere to any one of those options, any one of these concepts or all the ideas. It's up to you. Again, any medium or any kind of artworks, there is no limitations. So these are a couple of examples that I actually got from the web. So basically the left one shows like the overall well-being. Remember I told you about the blood flow to the head? That is exactly what it is showing with the expansion of the lungs. So the lotus is actually placed at the place of lungs where it is comfortably expanding and contracting. So something of that sort. Again, it is more of like the yoga way, but again, that is not necessary. The one on the right shows how important lungs are to our breathing, and breathing only through the nose is is shown here. And also, again, when we do breathe better, we have a better and a beautiful life. So those are some of the art ideas that I have. And again, how do you want to share your art? You want to participate, you need help with anything, again, you want to bounce ideas with me, please feel free to email me, and every participant will be receiving a certificate of participation for the big draw. All right, and thank you.